I think brands can do a better job of working with creators and creating more of a safe space for them by truly being intentional about their needs.
Hey, Tiffany, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me, Always curious to hear stories, right? About people that went from, one career to something totally different, right? And I think that is part of your story, right? So we're going to talk about it later today. But what I usually do, it is that it's just to know about yourself a bit more, right? For the people listening today. And we have this thing called the map. Basically, it is divided in three sections, right? So the mission, what do you aim to achieve with, of course, your work, the achievements, anything that you're really proud of, could be in your career, could be in your life, and the purpose. So in addition to the what do you aim to achieve is also the why do you do what you do.
My name is Tiffany Hardin, and I am the owner of Gild Creative Group and represent both founder, CEO of both of those companies. Gild Creative Group, we're an influencer marketing company, really a creative agency that services brands to help them grow closer relationships with their consumer or their community. And represent, our mission there is to be the most useful global network for creators to realize sustainability in their careers using, operations. So in terms of things I'm most proud of, accomplishments, I think one, running a company for multiple years is an accomplishment. It takes a certain level of resilience and tenacity and a little crazy to be able to run an agency and to also continue this work in what really is the Wild West. So for me, it's being a part of different lists, but really I think the main thing I'm most proud of is being able to cut checks to diverse talent, upwards of I think we've cut at least over $1 million, I want to say closer to $2 million in checks to talent that may not have otherwise received it. And I think in terms of my purpose across both of my companies, the sort of line, the thread that is being woven within both of them comes down to, I think which is, I believe that when we use our social and creative capital, we can change the wealth outcomes for ourselves and our communities. And that only benefits everyone. And I get really excited about using my own social and creative capital to be able to do that in the world.
Amazing. So, but also you also come from a different, before starting your own company, right? You were coming from what was that, strategic partnership? Is that correct? Were you in that world before?
Yeah. So my career started in the music business. I was in talent management.
Okay.
So I worked in New York City for a hip hop talent management company called Violator, and literally straight from college into the fire, and to date myself a bit, this is when you would have to, when you're in New York, you had to go out on the street and put your hand up if you wanted to hail a cab, so this is pre-Uber days. So this was a time where there was no influencer marketing business. When I left talent management, I went into work in marketing, and I didn't really know too much about the advertising business. But what I learned very quickly was that the most successful advertisers and marketers were ones that were leveraging culture and cultural passion points and interests as gateways to help sell whatever service, product, or idea that their client was looking to launch. And so when I was at the advertising agency, I was like, why don't we use this BMXer to create this social video? Why don't we use different people that were cultural experts and influencers to participate in this work? And that was really the onset of influencer marketing. And that's how I really started to move from just sponsorship opportunities with brands and properties to working with talent and bringing them partnership deals. Because I was at the agency, I was able to say oh wait, I can do this for multiple entities, not just this one. So that's really how I started my career in influencer marketing.
And what are some of the trends that you are noticing lately? Is there anything that is happening that you think people should, really focus on these days? Are you noticing anything changing drastically in the influencer marketing industry?
Well, I think the biggest part of what's happening right now is obviously AI and generative AI is a useful tool to support the creator, of course, but also it's an interesting creator tool, right? So like
Yeah.
outside of its efficiency and productivity, it's an area where it's another expression of art. And I think in any type of true creator mediums, they look to do is figure out like, how can I leverage this to express myself and express an idea or express whatever? And that's what's been interesting is seeing how that plays a part in creator. There's both pros and cons to that, especially when we start thinking about ownership. And there's a talent right now who took like fun songs like of today and made them sound like old Motown hits, right? So like there's, you know, like BBL Drizzy, for instance. It's he remixed that to sound like a doo-wop song. There's different things like that that are fun and interesting and kind of are culturally relevant that are trends that are happening. But I think from an industry perspective, even having B2B creators, you know, I think just the term is being more expansive and figuring out, okay, who are we looking to comment and lead in terms of thought leadership in these areas. So I think that's a trend for B2B creators to make their mark and use their IP to generate wealth for themselves with brands as well. So it's not just folks that are like, what I'll say, like shucking and jiving on the internet. You know, it's opening itself up to way more. And I think overall, just the trend of creators paying way more attention to their sustainability and how they can make a career out of this work and what tools and what practices are they leveraging. And that's where Represent, the tech startup that I'm building, is coming into play, because the white space that I've noticed is that there are a bunch of brands and agencies that are catering to advertisers and those with the big money bags, the publishers, the media companies, but they're not creating tools and systems and resources for creators who these brands are relying on to spread messages. So how do we fill that gap? And it's not just the management companies. It's some of these creators, they can't afford to have a management company or an agent. So how can they participate in the upside of a almost $1 trillion business, you know, without being a huge agency or a huge brand, you know? So it's kind of like a trickle down effect when I start thinking about that, how sustainability can play a role in the trend for creators as we grow the business. Because that's really what it's about, growing this industry.
So you said, resources, right? What could be some of the either resources or, even, again, practical, right, business, tips and creative skills that someone that is approaching now, they are maybe creators, they want to get to the next level. So you said that it's something that you have to learn, right? Are there any specific things that you think are very important and crucial for content creators out there that they should learn from day one in order to navigate this world and do a good job and be, in terms of both monetization and also like as a personal branding type of like, building up and so on. So is there anything specific that comes to your mind when it comes to that?
There's three things. One is, I think it's important that you vision cast. What I mean by that is, what are you doing this for? How do you see yourself? What's the highest version of this for you? Because your vision for this will determine your strategy, right?
Yeah.
So start with your vision. Like, what do I see for myself? The second thing I would say practically is your operations. Like, this is the thing that as a creative person, I used to run away from myself, which was, how do I get done the things that I need to get done, and who's helping me with that? And what do I know about my process? And so that could be hiring a virtual assistant to support your calendar, support, the project management of the activities that you have to do, even the deals that you receive. Yeah, sometimes that's inbound, but when you get to a certain level, but as you're growing, you got to go out there and pitch yourself, right? So how are you keeping track of who's the right person to pitch, your relationships, things like that? That's important. And you can do that with a VA. This is where AI can come in handy for you to create templates, things like that. And then the second or the third thing would be finance. There's a point in time where 12% of creators, I think it's 12% of creators make at least 100K. That's not a lot of people that make that, but like at least 100K and up, meaning most creators, like 73% of creators are part-time. So most of them, I want to say like 25% of them are making at least $50,000 a year. And if you're of the top percent of creators that are making 100K and more in a year, That also means you have income that the IRS, here in the USA, the IRS will come for your money because the company that paid you told the IRS they paid you. So the IRS is wondering, well, I'm going to tax you. So you have to be able to keep track of how you're getting paid, what you're using that money for, and are there tax benefits that you can be taking advantage of? Because essentially you're a small business, you're a small business. And as a small business, you should, and potentially if you're creating a high vision for yourself, you're going to be operating a sophisticated business, and that needs marketing and finance support. So I would say find yourself a bookkeeper and a CPA that's helping you save money for your taxes, swirling that away for your quarterly tax payments. But also, as you're creating, if you're hiring a videographer, if you're hiring someone to post for you or whatever, you're paying those people out, and you want to make sure you're getting the benefit of the doubt there, and making sure you have an entity formation that supports you in that. So it's not the sexy stuff. It's not the sexy stuff, but it is the stuff that's going to save you time. It's going to save you a lot of heartache later. And it's going to remind you that you're, as a creator, building something that has a strong foundation, where you're not sitting there going through old emails and receipts, trying to figure out where you put the money, So those are the three things: cast your vision, create an operational structure, get help, and then get financial support.
Is your brand ready to amplify its reach? Well, the Influencer Marketing Factory is here for you. We are a global influencer marketing agency helping brands ignite their growth. From influencer identification to campaign strategy, handling legalities and agreements, to managing shipping and logistics, we got you all covered. We work with hundreds of brands across different verticals, from Fortune 500 companies to direct-to-consumer brands. And we don't just stop there. With detailed ROI analysis, we help brands like yours measure success, transforming impressions into conversions. You can find us at theinfluencermarketingfactory.com or just searching the Influencer Marketing Factory on Google. Amazing tips. I do agree. It's not the sexiest, right? Things to talk about. Sometimes it's boring, for someone that is very creative, but you have to know about that. You have to, especially if you have a long-term vision about yourself as a content creator, you absolutely want to remove yourself from some of these tasks, give it to someone else. Yes, it could cost you a bit more, right? So margins might be a bit thinner, but that means that you can focus more on your creative process. You can work on what you like instead of hating your day, right? Because, I have to do the taxes. I have to, look at, those emails, I have to do spreadsheets and so on, right? So.
Oh, yeah, because it's going to get done eventually, and you're going to hate it, and you put it off because you hate it.
I know, exactly. So, yeah, for everyone listening, it's something that you have to start not only considering, you have to start doing that from today already. Still on the let's say on the financial side, right? One of the topics that, of course, we all see, especially on social media, it's also pay disparities, right? There has been a big concerns about it. So also wondering, how do you advise influencers when when it comes to negotiate? Because negotiating on campaigns, it's between a hard skill and a soft skill, right? Hard skill on numbers, soft skill on the communication and interpersonal sort of skills. How do you help influencers? How do you advise them when it comes to negotiate their prices?
I've been doing this work for, the better part of 15 years, negotiating with brands, negotiating with creators, because I also run an agency where I ask creators to participate in brand campaigns, right? So sometimes they have a manager, sometimes they don't. I also coach creatives. So one of the things that I tell them is get all the facts. You have to get all the facts, and then, make informed decisions based on not just the price, but also what is it going to cost you to accomplish the activity that the company wants you to do? And is there a fringe benefit of being with and engaging in that practice? So for instance, I have a bag of chips sitting next to me, right? So if that company, the Good Crisp company, if they were like, hey, we want you to do this post for us, that might be very transactional for me. I'd be like, that's what it is, call it a day. There might be another company that I'm really interested in, and that's been on my list, and they're like, maybe they're paying me less, but I get to have more engagements with them. I get to request more from them. Maybe if it's okay, I'll pay me less, but pay me quickly, or pay me less, but I want to be able to have another meeting with you to talk about my ideas and what I want to do and what I want to achieve, So if there's more fringe benefit and opportunity to build relationship, take advantage of that. Sometimes, to your point about interpersonal communication, the negotiation starts with how you make somebody feel on either side of that fence. Yeah. So if I was really intentional about, I really want to work with this person, but I couldn't figure out how to negotiate with them or made them feel like their interests are being protected, then we're not going to have a deal. If I'm able to be in a position where I can say, hey, look, like, I know this is really important to you, but this is what's important to us. And so we need to figure out how we can meet in the middle and what we can both give on, and take the time to figure those things out versus having such a hard boundary or a hard line. Have boundaries, but like if you have a hard line, then you're not really interested in negotiation. It's my way or the highway. And that's how you quickly can turn someone off and then just never have the relationship again. And it's okay to say no. Like, this is really awesome, whatever your reasons are. It's okay to say no, but have a confident no and have a confident yes. Don't say yes and then have so much resentment for that yes. Be clear about it. And I think that's what builds relationship. And I think if I could give folks a piece of advice around negotiation, it's know what your boundaries are, know what the minimum, your basement price, and what your, there's never the max price is going to be out the roof, right? But like, know what your basement price is, and know what, as people ask for usage and, other things from the contract, how that gets higher and higher and higher. And if they want to negotiate you down, be prepared to say, okay, I'm happy to do this price, but this is what it means for that price. So being able to be smart enough or wise enough to understand your contracts and what is more effort and more lift from you versus like what the give get is. I think there's always going to be room for a value exchange. You just have to be really clear about what matters to you.
These are great tips for influencers, especially when it comes to setting up floor price and understanding. Again, it's not just about the money; sometimes it's about the values. So there are so many things to look at. Great tips. What about the brand side? I already said a couple of things, but is there anything when you think about if when that brand approached us in that way, we didn't like it for that reason. Instead, that brand when approached us had not just that offer, but they also explain us in this way that therefore we liked them more. Like, are there any tips that you would give to brands when they approach influencers? So to see both sides.
I love that question. I think brands can do a better job of working with creators and creating more of a safe space for them by truly being intentional about their needs. Like, they'll say, oh, I like this creator for how they show up on their page. But when it's time for them to do the work for the brand, they're like, okay, but do it this way though. And it's like, okay,
yeah,
I can also know it's not going to perform because I'm the expert on how I perform on my page. So the brand has to be super clear about what their goals are. And if their goal is just I know brands that are like, I just want to have some funny videos out in the world, or they're like, I really need to get these app downloads. And so we're going to work with influencers. You have to be really clear with your KPI and also recognize that this business is top of funnel marketing work. So as a marketer, as a brand marketer, sometimes people forget that when you're working with influencers, this is top of funnel brand awareness. And even for those that are in D2C, working with D2C brands where they want the consumer download, they want the sale for their, shoes with the code that they let the influencers use. That's all well and good. That's for folks that are coming down the funnel. It is the marketer's job to make sure that they've set up systems around that influencer work so that they are helping to bring those customers down the funnel. And I think that's the part of this business that brands tend to forget. So I would encourage brands to remember, you're still the marketer. You're still the marketer. They're amplifying an idea, an experience, an opportunity for their consumers, but it is up to the marketer. And that means that social media team, it has to be on point. The folks that are operating those UTM links, making sure like those clicks mean something. So the creator has done their job. You got to do yours. So in my mind's eye, I think a tip for the brands is to remember, where does influencers play a role in our activity, in our marketing activity? And does that KPI, whatever it is an isolated KPI, or is it something that plays a bigger part in the larger marketing picture? And in this particular industry, there are a lot of folks who are in influencer marketing, but they're really just at the surface level of it. And so they're not looking at all the interdependencies across departments as to what can make something successful. And I think when you're doing something, and there's things that can be done that are like, oh, this is fun, this is cool, whatever. But then there are other brand launches that have interdependent opportunities where you could look at a solid marketing plan for a project or a campaign and say, when we worked with these influencers, that created a swell of attention that we were able to grab from, like, our social media team saw that. They were able to comment, do a direct DM so that people were clicking links and doing whatever. So there are ways that people can be collaborative to make sure, some of these campaigns do really well. But for a lot of people, they're not thinking about the full 360 picture. They're just thinking about this isolated piece of it. So, and if you're thinking that way, that's all you're going to get. So it's not going to have a lot of rooted energy. It's just going to be, it's going to flash and then fall flat.
Yeah, no, I do agree. We've seen that happening, right? Like a big, a peak and then decreasing rapidly. If you, as you correctly said, if you don't think it as part of a 360 approach, especially these days, right? Where I said at the time, we went from a nice to have, like influencer marketing was a nice to have to a must have. Therefore, you should think it about like, is it going to be a part of something bigger? If so, yes. How do we implement things? And also like that, I appreciate when you say about, certain brands coming to you and be like, oh, we love your content. But then when it comes to the campaign, they give you a script, they give you something that to like basically just repeat. And customers and users are not stupid, right? They're not dumb. They will see through that and be like, you know what, this is not your typical content. Therefore, it's not going to work. I think that's part of it. Also educating, right, client and understanding why you should trust the creator, because they know what works for their audience, right? And sometimes they know social media better than many, marketers working for brands out there. But to start wrapping, the episode, I would love to hear just, a couple of minutes left. What do you think is the future of the influencer marketing?
This is
I know, big question.
I know, like, oh boy. No, the future of influencer marketing is really interesting because it just got started. Like, yeah, we're just getting here. And the things that I've been seeing has been people really leaning into sort of owned and operated community and having tribes. And I think that anytime, anywhere, any place, no matter what you call it, anytime you're able to serve universal need like belonging, there's going to be opportunity to make some coins there. And I think that what creators, especially those who have sort of come up through this, like I started this work when I was in my 20s and I am in my 30s now. So like those of us who have evolved in our life stages, we can see that there's legs to this that go much deeper than any social media platform. So I think the future of influencer marketing for the creator is going to be how well they are committing themselves to not only their creative craft, but like their business and how well they're able to say, okay, this is something that I own. I'll always have a sales funnel. I don't have to always rely on brands. I can create my own IP and put it out into the world. People will buy it. So I think that's one area. And then I think for the industry, there's always a new crop of new creators. Like there's like artists and musicians, right? So the industry is always going to pay people to help them communicate an idea for a product or whatever to service that culture or that community. There will always be a new coffee bean, a new chip, a new shoe, a new whatever. Yeah. And there's always going to be someone that says that works better for me than that at this time. And I'm going to tell my friends. So I think there's always going to be a really healthy industry for influencer marketing. I think the future of it is going to be how well can brands bring more humanity into the creator relationship that they have, because the more advertisers and brands treat creators like their billboards, the less creators are going to care as well. And that means the creative aspect of it will dwindle, because it's going into F you pay me mode versus, oh, I love this. Let's collaborate on this. This means something to me. And I think we're hitting a peak where it's like, I know my worth and I need to get paid what I need to get paid. And marketers, we're the ones that set the tone, and now we need to kind of figure out how we can backtrack a bit and like make sure that we're treating creators not like a billboard on the street, but as creative collaborators that can help us grow our businesses.
Totally. No, very, very good point. I do agree 100%, especially for the future of this economy that is going well. But yes, we have to adjust a couple of things if we want to continue growing in the organic, nice way, instead of like getting, again, peak and then destroy, type of thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to thank you, Tiffany, for joining me today. This was great. Thank you for all your knowledge that you share with us. And just like, to be an amazing guest today.
Thank you so much. This was fantastic. I was looking forward to having this conversation with you. I love talking about this industry. It matters so much to me. Like I said, my purpose has been to make sure we're using our social and creative capital to bring positive outcomes in this world. And, you being able to create this podcast and to share knowledge with more people, it does exactly that. So we're operating in alignment right now.
Yes. Love it. Again, thank you so much, Tiffany. This was The Influence Factor by the Influencer Marketing Factory, and I'll see you next week.